Welcome back, you guys. My name is Caine, and in the NBA, there are so many examples of what ifs. What if OKC doesn't trade James Harden? What if David Stern doesn't veto the Chris Paul Lakers trade? Or what if Derrick Rose never tears his ACL? Those are some of the most remembered NBA what ifs, but these ones I'm going to talk about in this video are kind of forgotten about. Obviously, some of you guys watching this video will remember most of these or even all of these. I did a part 1 of NBA what ifs that are forgotten about that I'll leave in the description that you can watch after this. So, you watching this right now, going through all of these what ifs, let me know which one is most interesting to you. I think we as basketball fans can safely say that when Tim Duncan retired from the Spurs, he left as the face of the franchise. When you think of the Spurs, you're thinking of Tim Duncan, but there was a time when Duncan almost left the franchise before really solidifying his legacy. In the year 2000, Doc Rivers and the Orlando Magic were calling Tim Duncan's phone when he was a free agent. The Magic even got Tiger Woods to help out in the recruiting process. Billboards of Duncan were seen by him as he flew into the city. Tim Duncan was slowly becoming more convinced that he should join the Magic. He liked what they had to say in the team presentation. He even canceled his flight out of Orlando the next day to check out homes with a real estate agent. But there was one problem. Orlando wasn't winning over Duncan's longtime girlfriend. Yes, Tim Duncan's girlfriend at the time had a problem when Doc Rivers told her that she would not be allowed to sit on the team plane to travel. It didn't sit well with her because Popovich and the Spurs allowed her to travel on their team plane. To put it shortly, David Robinson and Greg Popovich ended up convincing Tim Duncan to stay, and the rest is history. We all know how the Spurs turned out. But let's think about it from the Orlando Magic's perspective. If Tim Duncan signs in Orlando, the Magic probably never win the 2004 draft lottery. That means Dwight Howard is selected by another team, and that team probably being the Charlotte Bobcats. Imagine Tim Duncan playing with a healthy Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill for a few seasons. Do they make a couple of NBA Finals runs? Check these quotes from Tracy McGrady and see how confident he was about the possible super team. Once Grant and I get there, this will definitely be the city. The East is locked up. If Duncan comes here, it will be scary. He also said this: "It will be unfair to the league if all three of us come here. We have the East. We'll be playing the Lakers for years." But what if Grant Hill's injury problem stays consistent in that alternate timeline? How good are the Magic? Where does Tim Duncan end up on people's all-time player lists? This is a huge what if and changes the course of a couple players' legacies and the future of the Magic and the Spurs. You guys got to tell me what you think here. To my Knicks fans watching this, there is one man you can blame for everything, and that is James Dolan. Back in December 2013, there was a chance for the team to build momentum off of their 54-win season the year before. The Knicks had agreed on a trade that would send Meta World Peace, Iman Shumpert, and a 2018 first-round pick to the Raptors for Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry thought the deal was done and he would be playing in New York soon, but it never happened for one reason. New York Knicks owner James Dolan backed out of the trade in the last minute. Dolan backed out of the trade because he thought he was getting fleeced by Raptors GM Masai Ujiri. If you remember, Masai was the GM of the Denver Nuggets when the Knicks traded for Carmelo Anthony. In that trade, the Nuggets took away a lot of solid role players from the Knicks, and James Dolan thought this was going to be a similar situation. Dolan did not want to lose out on more role players and picks. If the trade goes through, the Knicks probably run a starting lineup of like Kyle Lowry, J.R. Smith, Carmelo Anthony, Andrea Bargnani or Amari Stoudemire at power forward, because Bargnani got hurt that year, and Tyson Chandler at center. Then you have Tim Hardaway Jr., Raymond Felton, and Cole Aldrich off the bench. The wing depth is definitely a problem, but I'm still willing to bet that Lowry and Melo can get the Knicks to the playoffs that season. Let me refresh your memory of what the Raptors looked like in 2012. Kyle Lowry was hurt with a partial triceps tear for a little while, and when he came back, he was coming off the bench behind Jose Calderon. Lowry didn't get back into the starting lineup until Calderon was traded for Rudy Gay. There was some speculation that the Raptors were soon going to tear down everything after that season, but they didn't and pushed the Brooklyn Nets to 7 games in the 2014 playoffs. But how does this trade turn out for Toronto if the trade goes through? Does DeMar DeRozan sign that extension in 2016? Does he want to be a part of the rebuilding process? Which team does LeBron and the Cavs play in the 2015 Eastern Conference Finals? Because it's definitely not the Raptors. It is definitely a lot to think about and changes the future of the Eastern Conference. I think this one will be the most remembered, but I needed to talk about this one. Before the start of the 2007-2008 NBA season, the Lakers were stuck in the middle of the NBA. They weren't good enough to compete for a title, and they weren't bad enough to get into the lottery. Also, their superstar was feeling the pressure of not being able to win a championship without Shaq. News came out that Kobe Bryant demanded a trade, and he was doing on-camera interviews, not talking nicely about Lakers GM Mitch Kupchak and Andrew Bynum. Kobe demanded a trade to the Bulls, and he actually confirmed that the Bulls were his #1 choice back in an interview in 2015. Kobe wanted to form a duo with Luol Deng. Deng had a solid third season with Chicago, averaging 18 points, 7 rebounds on 51% shooting. But Kobe kicked in his no trade clause because Luol Deng would have been sent to Los Angeles. We know how it turned out for the Lakers. They went on to win 2 more titles with Kobe as the finals MVP. But what if this trade actually went through without Luol Deng involved? The Bulls probably have to send Ben Wallace in that deal, and the Bulls that year in 2008 probably run out a lineup of Heinrich, Kobe, Luol Deng, Andres Nocioni, and Joakim Noah. The Hawks got in as the 8th seed, only winning 37 games that year, so the Bulls that year would have made the playoffs in my opinion. There are 2 big side stories here too. Derrick Rose never ends up on the Bulls in 2008. And the second one is, how does Pau Gasol's career play out? Do the Lakers still make a trade for him, or do they just tank that season and see who they get in the draft that year? This is really interesting. Does Kobe win his 4th and 5th ring on the Chicago Bulls? How do the Lakers try to rebuild? This is a lot to think about. I can't even try to think of a plausible scenario for both teams. Let's go into the last one. It took 22 years for the Celtics franchise to get another NBA championship, and Paul Pierce was one of the guys who helped bring that championship. But that title possibly never happens if Paul Pierce is traded in 2005. After his 7th NBA season, Paul Pierce's career was in the middle of a rough period. The team just lost to the Pacers in the first round of the playoffs. That series was a disaster. Pierce got ejected in Game 6 after 2 technical fouls and waved his jersey to Indianapolis fans. He was getting into public disputes with Doc Rivers that ruined his perception around the league. It was not good times in Boston. On draft night in 2005, the Celtics tried trading Paul Pierce for Chris Paul. The Celtics would have gotten the 3rd overall pick and shipped Paul Pierce to Portland. Danny Ainge said this in an interview with Bill Simmons. It was either go with Paul or go young and start over. There was discussion. We decided we wanted to win with him here rather than trade him and see someone else win with him. This is another big one that is definitely forgotten about. The Celtics' big 3 with KG, Garnett, and Pierce probably doesn't happen. What kind of career does Paul Pierce have in Portland if he gets traded there? What kind of team does Danny Ainge build around Chris Paul in the 2000s? Danny Ainge is one of the best GMs. I definitely trust him to build a team around Chris Paul, and he probably actually gets to the conference finals. Also, another interesting thing to think about, does Paul Pierce help the Blazers enough to where they don't have to take Greg Oden 1st overall in 2007? And that is it for NBA What Ifs that are forgotten about part 2. I was supposed to make this video so long ago, but I just put it off, kept putting it off, but I think today is a good time to drop it, almost about a month before the season starts. Again, if you made it this far, shout out to you, because not everyone makes it to the end of the video. Leave a like if you thought it was interesting, and I'll see you guys in my next video.